Alrighty, everyone. So welcome to, as mentioned, this month's webinar on video being the king of content. I'd like to introduce myself. My name's Gareth. I'm the training consultant here at Isentia Social. So I look after all these free webinars. So welcome if you're coming back to a webinar. If this is your first one, then hope you take an awful lot out of today. Now we're going to be going for about, say, 30 minutes today, so feel free as we go along to throw your questions into the chat dialogue there in GoToWebinar, or you can tweet at us as well, because we are massively social media here. So either use my handle or hashtag #IsentiaCourses. We are also going to be recording today's session, so if you do have to jump out at any stage, we will be shooting through a copy of this recording later on. But as mentioned, feel free to shoot through any questions as we go, and we'll get to those questions at the end. So what I'd like to do first off, though, is I do have a little bit of a guest here today. So Stuart Hipwell from 2 Social. So I'll let Stu introduce himself.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Stu from Isentia 2 Social. I'm the creative director, and basically I look after all creative concepts and strategies for our clients on social platforms.
Fantastic. And so Stu will be jumping in as we go through today to provide a little bit of extra information around some of the creative aspects when it comes to video on social media, and some of the really intricate parts about how to build a really cool video. So he'll be chiming in as he goes as we go through, and a little bit of information as to what we are going to sort of tick off today. We're going to look at the why. So why is video important? Why is it such an important vehicle at the moment? The what, which will focus on, what video really flies on social media. And we'll cap that off with how, which is effectively how to execute it, how to build it, how to plan it, etc. And so, as mentioned, if you have questions along the way, feel free to throw them at us, and we'll get to them towards the end of today's session. So let's kick off with the why. So why is video such an important vehicle, especially when it comes to social media at the moment? Well, first off, it wouldn't be a little bit of a chat if we didn't talk about the importance of social media. So Global Web Index survey has it pinned that your average internet user is spending about 2 hours on social every single day. So that's an awful lot of time being spent on these platforms. Obviously, you don't have to go past a ride on a bus or a train to see the way that people interact with the content, and the fact that people just immerse themselves in these platforms. And so I encourage you to think about the sort of mediums that you look at, and obviously video itself sticks out because you can tell a much broader story and a much more immersive story than you can when you're thinking about blog content. So 2 hours being the amount of time. Stu, do you ever get near that 2 hours?
Yeah, easily in transit normally. Yeah.
Yep.
Outside of work though.
Of course, yeah. No, we would never use social media for our own personal purposes while in the building. But yeah, transit, like you said, you look at people on the bus, and it's insane to see how much people are using these platforms. When it comes to the importance of video, let's have a look at we'll have a look at some of the platforms and the importance to them. So Facebook's really an interesting one, because I've got here a quote from Ellie Rogers, who's head of agency sales for Facebook, and she came out last year and said, "People ask us, are you a social network? Are you a mobile platform? We're saying that now because of the rise of video, we're actually a video platform." Now, this was from last year, and listen, you don't have to be an absolute genius to notice there's a bucket load more video content on Facebook. Personally, when I log in, I see usually in the first 15 or 20 posts, I'm seeing 4 to 5 videos. Facebook are claiming 8 billion video views a day. Now, obviously, that's slightly skewed as to what they call a view, but that's still a huge amount of video content being consumed, driven in a big way by autoplay, which some of us love, some of us find a little bit annoying, but automatic playing that video means that video on Facebook is a lot more of an important vehicle. Also, for those of you who followed the news last year, they've got a big push on native videos as opposed to sharing it across from third-party sites. So what we mean by that is obviously taking the time to upload your video content to Facebook, which will allow it to autoplay, and they actually favor that. So your video will get more sets of eyeballs when you spend that time actually natively uploading it. For those of you who obviously use Facebook on your mobile device, which is the bulk percentage of us, you may have noticed that they've started introducing new tabs as well, so you can actually have a look at different categories, whether it's sport, whether it's relationships, news, etc. And by housing those contents in those categories, people can immerse themselves in video content and the like a lot easier. And obviously when it comes to Facebook, we can talk about that algorithm, which has obviously taken another change this morning for those following the news. But Facebook likes video. Facebook, as you can see from this quote, they want people to see more videos. So us trying to get our message out as communicators, in sometimes we need to play within the rules of the different platforms. And at the moment, one of those rules is making sure we really harness the power of video. If we jump across and start thinking about YouTube, so YouTube's a different beast, obviously. It's a different platform, been around for a little bit longer. When you think about the behavior of people on YouTube, it's a bit more of a search and seek sort of attitude. It is the second largest search engine with 3 billion searches every month. Now, obviously, that does pale in comparison to the likes of Google, its big cousin, which has got 3 billion searches every day. But think about the fact that when people are on YouTube, they're searching for your content. They're actually going out there and looking for it. So video is important regardless of social media platform, but think about which video would be right for those different channels. YouTube's a bit more similar to thinking about your website. People are often seeking that content out. And so also when you think about your distribution strategy for video, you need to think of the SEO side of things, what people will be searching for when they are looking for your video on YouTube. Now this is this is a little bit of a favorite stat of mine. Midway through last year, there was a survey done, and they've pinned the attention span of humans down to 8 seconds now. So it's come down from 12 to 8 seconds. So that's a real testament to the power of video, because instead of trying to leverage on the fact of people reading blogs or spending time with your written content, video allows you to tell a quicker story and really not be too concerned and not be as concerned about that 8-second mark. The challenge obviously is we are becoming goldfish. So if you're thinking about the content you're serving, the messages you're trying to get across to your audience, video is a great way to sort of capture those goldfish. We want to make sure that we can get as much of our information across to our audience as possible in a short space of time, and video can be great. We often talk about the fact that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, considering that video is 24 frames a second and you've got a 15 or 30-second video, imagine how many words you can really get across to your audience in that space of time. So video is such an important way, just from the behavioral aspect of people and trying to capture that attention span and that sort of ability to communicate with them. And here's another little piece of information which is really important and something that we really pay attention to here at Isentia Social, and that's the number of hours that people are spending watching their videos on their mobile is up 100% year on year. And so this is a stat that YouTube's telling us. So every year there's a rise by 100% of people looking at this video content on their mobile device. So it's a really, really important factor. Stu, how does this sort of factor into when we think about the creative of videos?
It's very important. Like we always take a mobile first view of all video or any content in social. It's very important to look at any sort of graphics, any sort of content you have, and make sure it's really simple and to the point, so people get the most of it on a mobile platform.
Yeah, definitely. I guess it's a lot different than thinking of a TVC for a big screen, as opposed to trying to put some visual content on a 4.7-inch mobile screen these days. Yeah,
and even vertical video is driven by mobile is taking off. So that's just another testament to this.
Most definitely. It's an interesting one. We might chat a little bit more lackadaisical about vertical video. I had a videographer get angry at me about that the other day, so that's another story. So that's a why. So as we discussed, it's really important. Think about the type of video content that you've got on there. Sorry, the type of medium and content you're using on social media. But what about the what? So effectively, what sort of content really flies when it comes to videos on social? So YouTube sort of pinned it down to 3 categories, if you will, when it comes to what type of value your video content would give to an audience. So we've got here entertain, educate, and inspire. So entertain obviously speaks for itself. It's entertaining, for lack of a better term, for lack of a synonym right there. Educational, so telling people a little bit more of a story, maybe explaining something about your products, maybe the how-to side of things, and then the inspirational, which as humans we tend to love. Stu, are there any that fit into these sort of categories that really stick out in your mind?
Yeah, sure. Like entertaining, Pepsi Max campaign was, I mean, they always do a great job.
Yep.
Red Bull, entertain and inspire. They own that space, and educate. The McDonald's campaign, that they ran, or started in Canada, I believe,
Yep.
then ran throughout the world, educating people about McDonald's.
Yeah.
They all hit those marks.
Yeah, I remember the Macca's one in particular was an interesting one. It was why your burgers look different in the images versus the real life, and it was a great way to sort of educate your the audience. And like we said, it can be a variety of different topics underneath these banners, but effectively, you want to be providing at least one of these values, to your audience. I will throw to you now, because we've got an example from a creative piece that you did where I believe the idea was sort of to hit all three.
Yeah, if you can get more of these categories in your video, YouTube say with their stats anyway that they get far more engagement. So clearly, I mean, if it suits, that's what we aim for here.
Yep.
So this is a campaign that we ran for Mission Australia. It was a bit of a social experiment where we got quite a comfortable family from the inner west of Sydney, and actually got them to sleep in the car for a week to actually experience what a real homeless family goes through. Through this, it was definitely entertaining. It had a feel of reality TV, which is popular at the moment. Definitely the education piece, that we actually, through the experiences, we actually saw what these families had to go through. And they only had $60 a day to live on, so it was quite tough for them. And the inspiration piece was really from the discovery, especially from the mum in this series, that she got out of it, and actually from the father as well. That really inspired our target audience and got them engaged with the video and shared the video.
Definitely. So as much as possible, thinking to incorporate all three components and really sort of really sing to your audience. Yeah. Do you find that hard as a creative person to whack them all in there, or with that sort of framework? Do you?
Yes, I mean it's hard to think of a concept that encompasses all three, but it should be natural.
Yep.
If you're telling the right story, and it shouldn't be forced. So you have to make sure that's in line with the campaign and the objectives you're trying to achieve.
Fantastic. And I think from that as well, a holistic idea of entertain, educate, and inspire. Not so much dividing it up to three sections. I think that might look a little bit forced and morphed. Fantastic. So really thinking about trying to tick as many of those boxes as you can to get that content so that it's really engaging to your audience. It's a bit of a question we get asked quite regularly, and it's how long should a video for social be? Whilst we've got a tape measure there, I think your picture of a piece of string would have worked just as well, because it really does come down to how long's a piece of string in a lot of cases. But statistically, Loco-wise, ran a very large piece of analysis on 1,000 different pages, which encompassed about 5,800 different videos. And across that sample size, they found that that the average length of the video was about 55 seconds, but 18 seconds was the average completion. So people weren't getting anywhere near to the end of their videos. And this is one of the things that we need to think about, is that we may have a huge and a piece that we think is really incredibly valuable, but making sure that that we're telling a story to get people along it a lot longer. Stu, we obviously do a lot of work with clients. What's our data sort of telling us in regards to this?
Yeah, look, our data is sitting on about 15 seconds, sorry, of videos. So yeah, it's around that mark, and it does increase a bit with the length of the video.
Yep.
But it's still within that same percentage of video viewed.
Yeah. And that's because these stats are obviously Facebook, and that's very similar. I guess that sort of fits in, given that Facebook's very disruptive in the fact of putting your message out there. So you can't always expect your audience to sit there and watch through a War and Peace makeup.
That's correct.
Obviously, these stats are a bit longer for YouTube, because it's a bit more of that search and see content. I know that an average session time on YouTube on mobile is 40 minutes, which is a bizarre thing when you think that people sit on a mobile device on YouTube for 40 minutes. But you still need to make sure that you're thinking about how long your video is and what the messages are that you're trying to get across to your audience. So the how, this is the rubber meets the road. So let's think about how we want to obviously first and foremost plan, and then execute video for social, and then also one thing we'll touch on as well is the analysis. You don't want to do all this effort, you don't want to put all this money and tangibility behind it without actually paying attention to whether or not it succeeded for you, whether or not it was a worthwhile endeavor. So what these images are depicting here, we've got two really important concepts when it comes out to the image, the video, the style, everything you're trying to put into it. First and foremost, we want to think about goal setting. So think about what your objective is, and effectively how you're going to hinge results. When it comes to Facebook, Stu, I believe we've found some sort of trends in what really does work on.
Yeah,
on Facebook.
Look, video on Facebook. It's really good for engaging with your audience. You've really got to ask yourself what you want to achieve out of the content. If you're looking for things such as website clicks, through to a website, video may not be the best medium, but definitely if you want to talk to them at a brand level and engage with your audience, yeah, definitely. That's the space where it really works well.
Yeah, fantastic. So I think that was similar to the first mission campaign we ran, where we got an awful lot of sharing and content. I think the call to action was a big part of that, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. For the first campaign, we actually, rather than asking for donations, we actually pushed the message, just want you to share this video, and the engagement was incredible. So I think, like video and what the data is telling us is definitely it's good for engagement from a sharing point of view.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, telling your audience what you want to do with the message sometimes can be half the battle in that regard as well. And so obviously, once we've got our goals, once we think about what we're trying to achieve out of the video, and this obviously before even diving in, nothing worse than just sort of windmill punching first up. But the other side of things is thinking about the distribution. So where you are planning on distributing this video, because not all platforms are created equal. So you need to think about not just the platform and how video sits and how it interacts, but also where is your audience? And that's a very important question to ask yourself based on the campaign, based on the content that you're looking at creating. Where does your audience sit? Because you want to make sure the video is right for that. So we sort of look at, I guess, two primary distribution strategies, and that's feed me versus find me. And so the feed me content is, like we said, it's very disruptive. It's interruptive. It's someone who's looking at their news feed, and you're pushing your video out to them, pushing your message out to them, and you want to try to get your chunk of that 8 seconds of mental capacity, I guess. And the other side is the find me, which is participative. I actually managed to say participative. No, okay, I only did it once. There we go. I got too greedy. I tried to say it correctly twice. So it's about people actually finding your content. So like we said, the more of it on the YouTube, on the website, think about people actually seeking out your content and looking for it. Obviously, with Facebook being so large, tends to be one of the areas that a lot of organizations focus on. So it tends to fit into that feed me side. Like I said, dropping your content into the news feed. So Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, they sit in that feed me side of things. Obviously, one of the big challenges there is that, if you're pushing content out in front of people, you've got that wonderful thing called autoplay, which we mentioned a little bit earlier. So your content will automatically play, which is phenomenal for us. It's great. It means our message starts ticking over, but it also gives us a couple of challenges. So, Stu, do you want to take us through when it comes to our timelines and when we think about that sort of interruptive, disruptive video content on the likes of Facebook and Twitter?
Yeah, sure. Look, obviously, when people are on these platforms, they're in scanning mode, so they're not really there to see your content or your videos. So for us, one of the most important thing that we think about is what is the first frame of your video. So the first frame really has to be something that's disruptive, or a real tease to make someone really want to click on it. And obviously, we've talked about before, the 15-second, 18-second, 8-second viewing rule. We always make sure the call to action, what we actually want people to do, are within that 15 seconds. We normally start at around about the 8 to 9 second mark, just to make sure we've got a strong call to action when we know most people or most eyeballs are on that video.
Yeah, definitely. And that 3 seconds is such an important. That's obviously what Facebook generally deems as a view as well. So when if you're sitting there going, oh, wicked, we got 20,000 views, that's only who's ticked past the 3 seconds. So for us, obviously that 8 second is a very important aspect to sort of measure. Who's seen our call to action.
Yeah.
I guess the other side of this as well with that autoplay is audio not playing, which is something that that you need to think about in a.
That is true. Yeah, it's a big factor.
So I know with some of the content using super text is that the technical term?
Yeah, supers, which is text over the image. Look, we find that's probably the best method to use to get your message or get someone teased enough to want to play.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. And I mean, as I was saying, think about your own usage in this. I mean, if you're scrolling through your Facebook feed and a video starts auto-playing, unless it really grabs you in the 3 seconds, how often do you really sit there and watch the rest of it? And so it's important to really not ignore your own experiences on these platforms. To sort of echo that as well, Facebook and Nielsen did a little bit of a survey last year based on a variety of videos that have been put through, and they found that brand awareness, 2/3 of your audience achieve brand awareness or message awareness by the 10-second mark. So, once again, like we're saying, a video view is counted by Facebook when you get to the 3 second. But if you're aiming for a call to action or trying to achieve brand awareness, then Facebook and Nielsen are telling us that 2/3 of your audience will get there by that 10-second mark. You might have noticed in your video analytics, for those of you who've delved into the paralysis by analysis that is the insights pages in these platforms, you'll notice Facebook's actually tweaked that recently. So they give you a 3 second view as well as it tells you who made it to the 10-second mark. And so it's really important if you're thinking about trying to build awareness about a campaign or about your brand or a product. That 10-second mark is important because it's seen more and the message recall is going to be a lot higher, which it's good to know that Facebook and Nielsen are sort of echoing what we're saying, isn't it, Stu?
That's right, yeah.
So now that we've thought about that side of things, think about the actual creation of the content. Now here at T Social, we use this wonderful Venn diagram that you're seeing on the screen. Stu, do you mind taking us through this and how we utilize this?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is just a really simple diagram to get our heads around. Like, on these platforms, these people are in a social mode. So they're talking about things that they are interested in. Obviously, what we working with our clients, what they want to talk about is obviously their product or their service. But the audience does not want to talk about that. So really we have to look at what is relevant, which is that center, the overlap of the Venn diagram. What is relevant? How can we get our product or our client's product or service in a space that suits what the audience is talking about? And that's basically where we play in that space.
I think you may have shocked a couple of people on the call and, thinking that, that people don't want to hear their messages. Yeah, because unfortunately, there's no one sitting behind their desk right now waiting for us to send them messages. It's a shame, isn't it? Great example of that, though. One of our favorites here at Isentia Social is the Like a Girl campaign. And so it was a really interesting one. For anyone who's seen it, you'd be watching it. It was a very engaging one. It was. I'd encourage anyone to check it out. Just Google Like a Girl or hit it up on YouTube. It was about the term like a girl being used in a derogatory manner. And you watch it and it's a very engaging, it's very entertaining and very inspirational piece and educative as well. But the brand that actually created this piece of content was Always. And Stu, yourself and I as modern men may not have come across the brand as much, but it's a women's sanitary item brand. And so thinking about, traditionally what they may have talked about, like delving our minds back to 10 years ago and seeing TV commercials with the blue liquid and talking about wings and all those sorts of things. As everyone can hear, there's a little bit of giggling in the background because I'm a very well-educated man on this topic. Instead of talking about that, what they want to discuss, they thought about what their audience wants to discuss. And that was, in this case, self-confidence of girls going through puberty at that age. And so it was an amazing piece of content that didn't, once again, just talk about their product and what they want to discuss, but talked about their audience. And yes, I feel like I've discussed this campaign enough to be an absolute expert on women's sanitary items these days. So yeah, but a great piece of content. For those of you who haven't seen it, I think it's kicked up at about 60 million views on YouTube. It was distributed through social on Facebook, and every now and then you see another person uploading and going, oh, wow, how amazing is this? So it's an incredible piece of content.
Sure.
Now, when it comes to content and sort of planning it along the scope, YouTube's got a concept when it comes to strategy, and that's defined as hero, hub, and hygiene. And so the three H's, to make sure that I obviously articulate correctly. And so your hero, for those, it's a great place to start. Hero content is sort of like your tent pole, your big push, your brand awareness piece. It's effectively going to get you larger audiences. So it's at the top there because it tends to be a bit more expensive, it's a bit more labor intensive. And you don't utilize this as often, maybe annually, biannually, but it's your big push, your large piece of content to build awareness. Your hub content is your regular messaging. So this may be a little bit more product focused. It may be a little bit more about the messages that you want to continually push out about your organization and brand. And once again, similar to the last slide, we want to make sure it's within the context of what we want to discuss and what our audience wants to talk about. And hygiene is a little bit different. This is a lot more of your regular content. This tends to be what your audience is looking for. Quite often, the best way to find out what your audience is looking for is paying attention to the comments on YouTube, paying attention to the comments on Facebook, and creating content in and around that. So this is the way that YouTube encourages people to begin to think about structuring their video content strategy. Stu, do you have much of a thought on this one?
Yeah, look, I think you really have to look at all your content.
Yep.
And it's not just a one piece fits all. And really think about where you want to put your efforts. And it doesn't mean you have to do all the same. You can do a big push in hero.
Yep.
Or you can have more regular hygiene touch points, with your audience or with your customers. So yeah, it's very much dependent on what strategy you really want to achieve.
Definitely. I don't know, here at Two Social, we've used this outside of the context of just video to think about content more broadly, but it's a great place to start to think about where your video content sort of fits in from a strategy point of view.
Exactly.
As opposed to windmill punching, which we all love doing, just jumping in there and getting our hands dirty, thinking about how video may impact your strategy. To give a little bit of an illustration, Lego is like, they are the heralded brand when it comes to this strategy. So when you think about the top, they've got their movie trailer for the Lego movie. I don't think that most of us are going to go out there creating a hero piece which is about a movie trailer. Although if at Isentia we do create a movie, I'd imagine that I would be one of the main stars. A little bit of eye rolling there. The Hub content is their bloggumentary web series, which is all about the people being fanatical about Lego and making there's collectors in there. There's telling stories about how people get absolutely obsessed with Lego. But the hygiene, similar to what we were talking about earlier, the important aspect is the people what they're searching for, which is their creator series, which is a mixture of even user-generated content where people are searching for how to build the Death Star with Lego and etc. So really that's sort of how to and hygienic aspect where people are looking for specific content. So it's a great place to sort of start to think about where video will fit in your content strategy. And it's possibly something I say on a daily basis in my role, and that's obviously measure what matters. When you've posted video to any one of these platforms, you are going to get an awful lot of metrics spat back out at you to try to tell you whether or not that video, that post has been successful. And obviously you want to make sure you're paying attention to the metrics that tell the story, whether or not you've been successful or not, based on obviously your goals, your objectives that we talked about earlier. So like I said, reach, impressions, a huge amount of different metrics they get out. Which one is going to tell you the story of success based on that campaign? Stu, I guess you use the analytics and measurements in a different way as well.
Yeah, sure. Like obviously we measure everything to report back to see how a successful campaign is for a client, but it's also really it's like a crystal ball in a way where we use to direct our next piece of creative. How can we constantly make our video better? What worked for this video, and experiment with your video. So run 2 or 3 simultaneously and see which one worked better, and then use that information to drive your next video.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's never a one-off, one-hit sort of situation, and obviously when it comes to a video, if you've spent a lot of time, we also do look at if you're trying to get that message in front of a key audience, thinking about the promoted content side of things. Organic reach is pretty low on Facebook these days, and so whether you think about a YouTube strategy with pre-roll, whether you're thinking about promoting content through Facebook, really taking advantage of that.
Yeah, that's right.
And obviously, if you're paying, you want to make sure that you're getting some level of ROI on it. Fantastic. Well, guys, that brings us to the end of the content for today's webinar. So we'll switch into question mode. So we'll see what level of questions we've managed to get through so far. So we've got one here, and it's how important is video on Instagram? Okay, I guess I'll sort of handle that one. Listen, we always encourage making sure that you've got good mixes of content across all different platforms, and Instagram's no different. That being said, engagement rates are a little bit lower on Instagram for video versus images at the moment. I think it's only marginal, but obviously there is a difference there. I'd probably say more to do with the fact that the Instagram autoplay is a little bit slower than it is on Facebook. So it'll be interesting to see that when Instagram does roll out some analytics to organization pages throughout this year, it'll be very interesting to see what that sort of looks like, and by way of how we can then measure video success on Instagram. Another question here from Clavel, and that is, can you shoot social media video on a smartphone? Stu, I think I'll throw that one over to you.
Yeah, definitely. What you got to remember is video doesn't need to be highly polished for social. In fact, we find that a lot of our audiences actually prefer authentic video, as though it's not polished, it's shot through a phone, and it's more believable and more relatable. So yeah, definitely, it's actually sometimes a lot better.
Yeah, fantastic. Makes it look nice and real. Obviously, you want to make sure it is. It's not a 2-cent job. But we've got another one here. How does Facebook Live fit into this from Tess? That's so it's a really interesting aspect. I don't know if anyone's really messed with Facebook Live or Periscope at this stage. So the live streaming apps that are built into the platforms. Listen, I wouldn't say that when it comes to a strategy or an execution point, you'd want to move too far away from things like we're talking about, making sure it's entertaining, inspirational, or
obviously, this is a little bit different. Facebook Live, we've been playing around with it ourselves here in the studio. You've got a committed audience by the time they're watching you. It's in a way you treat it like a TV program, because they are booking a time with you. You have to look at the strategy as a whole. How do you advertise the Facebook Live session?
Yep.
And really promote that, and then you've got a more engaged audience.
Yeah, of course, because you don't want your audience to completely miss it, because then it just looks like another random video. Although I think one of the exciting things is that people are able to ask you questions during the broadcast, which is very different.
Exactly, the interaction is what makes it extraordinary.
Yeah, as opposed to previously we would capture the video, post it, and then respond to questions. It gives us that ability to really do it live. Give me 2 moments. So we've got another one. Should you caption videos for Facebook?
Really depends on the audience and what you're trying to achieve. Especially if you've got, obviously an audience where it might be an older audience, so on, then it becomes important. Just bear in mind, a lot of people, and we've done a couple of these, where we've had captions on a Facebook video. It is very small, and it will, to make the text legible, it will take up a lot of the screen. So you just got to bear that in mind. We have done it where we felt the audience was necessary.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned vertical video earlier, and the chance that people actually, I know it sounds horrible, but people are so lazy they're not going to switch their device into landscape mode, which means that sometimes if that text is too small, they won't see it. So yeah. If you have a series of videos, is it advisable to upload everything all at the same time? Do you have any thoughts on that one, Stu?
Really comes down to your dissemination plan. Like for example, the mission campaign we looked at earlier, we ran a series of videos. But each video had a different purpose. Some videos were for a different audience type, and some were part of a series. So we actually looked at a communications plan over a month, and space that out over a month. So what we're doing is engaging people on an ongoing basis over that month, rather than just hitting them up, at the start. We wanted prolonged viewing over a period of time. So that's really comes down to your strategy. But if you've got a series and you want longer engagement over a period of time, I would space them out. Yeah, definitely. I think the challenge with YouTube is if you throw them all up at once, you don't have that ongoing people coming back to search for your content. You don't have that behavioral engagement with them. The one thing I'd say is, regardless of whether you're doing it all at once or later on, if you're thinking YouTube, make sure that you add that to a playlist. Make sure you build a playlist within YouTube, because that'll allow people to kick from the first story into the next one. So you're going to get a better retention of people seeing more of your stories if it's in a playlist. So very much think about that. Do you often show a preview on social media with a link through to the main website or YouTube for the full video? So that info at the beginning of the... we have done previews for, like, the mission campaign. Definitely had a preview video, but not really for Facebook. Facebook, we really want to tell a story there. The preview was used more within, I suppose, the YouTube channel. To get you to go through to the playlist and watch all the videos in the series. Fantastic. Alrighty. So, plenty of questions, guys. Key metrics when it comes to video, to a video campaign. Listen, I think it really does. For starters, it will vary based on the platform. So obviously very limited on, say, Instagram as to what metrics you have access to at the moment. And once again, it comes down to what your goal is. I mean, if you do have a video that you are desperately trying to get the clicks to websites, which is something we tend not to really focus on. But if you are, make sure you're only really focusing on the clicks on the clicks metric, because if you're paying attention to the reach and you're paying attention to the views, well, they're what we call those vanity measures. They're nice and high and they look incredibly pretty, but they're not really telling you whether or not you've done a successful story. And if it's awareness or call to action, make sure you know where that message is, that awareness piece or that call to action piece is in your video, because if that's at, say, the 10-second mark or the 15-second mark, and people are only getting to 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds in, then they're not reaching your call to action or your main message. So measure what actually tells you whether or not that video is successful based on what your campaign objectives are. Alrighty, we've got plenty here. Although video is certainly becoming more popular, I still find that video posts on Facebook don't have the reach compared with my photo posts on Facebook. So it surprised me if Facebook themselves. Actually, we've that is a little bit surprising that you found that a little bit different. I'd say go back and have a look at which of your images are doing particularly well, and if you do have a video that has done well, go back and analyze what really impacted that. But generally speaking, video will get twice the amount of reach of images on Facebook, and so they're really pushing video from an algorithmic point of view. So I definitely go back and analyze your video and see what has been working and what hasn't. And final question: should you add logos to a video? Stu, it's an interesting branded question. What's your thoughts there? Yeah, look. Once again, you look at how people view videos. If it's depending on what the video is, if it's a branding piece, really, and the main thing is to build brand, you should have your brand at the start of the video rather than at the end. So craft it in that way. Definitely we have done both. But if it's more being a video supporting a cause and then the brand's less important, then obviously tail end's fine. But if you're really going for a brand focused video, I would really switch everything where you normally in a video you would have your brand as or logo at the end of the video as a sign off. Switch it around. It flips everything on its head. You bring it up to the front, bring up your call to action to the front. It just turns everything. Yeah. Once again, I guess that's what you're saying about making sure you know what you're trying to achieve by way of that. The one thing we definitely discourage is, you think about years gone by where you have that logo for like the first 5 seconds and that really terrible digital music. Yeah. That'd be something you'd... Yeah, that's one thing where you really... If you can't just take a video that you've shot for another purpose and put onto a platform like Facebook, you've really got to have that opening screen working for you.
Yeah, so that 3 seconds, if it's just your logo, what are the chances of someone sitting there and going, well, I'd love to know more about this video? So really think about, how that fits in your user's experience. Well, guys, thanks so much for all the questions and sitting in through the webinar. I hope you took an awful lot out of it today. We'll obviously shoot out an email with the recording later tomorrow, and feel free to jump onto our next webinar as well, which will be towards the end of July. But until then, guys, all the best, and thanks very much.